the city just the other day. I'm joined this morning by Council Elvis Semuya.
Good morning, Simon Kagwanjala. I'm very happy to be with you here today.
Yes, the blame game now seems to be running all over. Everyone now is to blame. Where would you start from if we were to examine this matter legally?
Yes. I think you need to start from the letter that was written by the President to the Prime Minister, where he clearly mentioned to the Prime Minister what Ham is trying to do or wants to do, and he ends by saying, I approve of those plans, asking the Prime Minister to make sure that Ham is granted the property and that his constructions really ensue, all right? And you have to look at how the Prime Minister, as leader of government business and the chairperson of the National Environmental Management Policy Committee was supposed to handle the approvals to Ham. The law creates various entities, including NEMA and KCCA in this case, that are supposed to deal with issues that affect the environment, that are also supposed to deal with issues regarding fiscal planning and development of the city, all right? And when you look at the KCCA Act, when you look at the NEMA Act, even the Constitution, NEMA was supposed to, Ham was supposed to go through some certain procedures. For example, he was supposed to carry out an environmental and social impact assessment to really show, yes, the ESIA, to really show how the development or construction of the drainage is going to affect the environment and how the risks are going to be mitigated. I do not know if this was done. At least there is no evidence that this was clearly done and that NEMA and that NEMA approved the ESIA, all right? KCCA in one way or another is also trying to say we approved or we did not approve, but if you want to look at the legalities, you want to look at which government entities were supposed to authorize this, number one, and I think NEMA had a part to play in approving the environmental impacts or assessments of this project. KCCA...
NEMA has come out.
Yes.
NEMA has come out to distance themselves, they said. They are yet to license or to issue a clean bill of health onto this project.
Yes.
So they are clean?
No, they are not clean. As the entity that is supposed to manage and control the environment in the country, they have functions. And one of those functions includes, like I have said, approving environmental and social impact assessments for projects that have a risk of damaging the environment, which actually this one was one of them. If they are distancing themselves and saying, you know, we were not approached, again, they had a duty to fulfill by, they have the powers, all right, and the authority under the law to go to Ham or whoever was constructing this drainage and say, please, you have not received the requisite, the required approvals from us, so you cannot continue. We do not see them anywhere approaching Ham and saying, you know, you cannot continue with this because you have not yet come to the authority. To
but
yes.
At the back of your mind, do you appreciate the supremacy of an executive letter that comes from the president? Is it above the law?
No. The supremacy, the letter coming from the president is not supposed to be above the law. I want to believe...
It is sacrosanct.
Not in any way. Not in, because you see, where you have laws, the letter from the president is supposed to say, okay, I okay this, but it should go through the relevant laws, all right? First of all, I really want to disagree with the people who wrote that letter. I don't think it was President Museveni, but if he did, when you say, I approve of Ham's plans, the president does not have the authority to approve any person's plans, building plans in the country. He does not have.
This is godly.
He does not have, all right? The authority that was supposed to approve those plans was KCCA, all right? NEMA, as you have said, cannot run away or shy away from liability because they omitted to come out to exercise their authority to stop what was going on because it was not legal according to the NEMA Act, all right? A letter from the president was just supposed to guide, all right? It was supposed to show the president endorses this, but we are supposed to do it under the law. And I really want to believe that if KCCA and NEMA had found out, or if HAM had failed to fulfill the requirements under the law that was supposed to grant him approvals to carry out the construction, then KCCA and NEMA should have written back to the president and said, the man has failed to fulfill
When you start
requirements.
midway, you seem to be absolving the councillors who had earlier made a proposal, rather a resolution, to the effect that a local investor should be sought to undertake the improvement of the channel in the pretext of raising money, revenue for the authority.
Yes.
So where are the councillors in this?
We don't want to exonerate them. Of course, they had the authority to create the resolutions or to pass the resolutions to allow HAM to do this and that. But again, they had an oversight function. They had a supervision function. KCCA, in one way or another, had to go down to the drainage and find out what is being done, all right, during the course of the construction, and whether at any stage the construction as it was or as it was proceeding could have affected the environment in one way or another, or could have affected the users of the neighboring properties. But they did not do this.
So they failed on action.
Yes.
How about the Lord Mayor?
They act clearly. You see that the power to do physical planning or to control or to authorize or to manage urban development, the power, the executive power, the absolute power actually lies in the office of the executive director. So you may want to exonerate Lukwago in one way or another.
Yeah, but political responsibility.
Yes.
Political responsibility. Does political responsibility have an element of law? Because the Lord Mayor is politically responsible for what happens from the political wing.
Yes. Of course, he is a little bit, he is responsible. I think what my dear Lord Mayor would have done in this case is when he made the noise, when he talked about what should be done and what should not have been done, I think he would have taken an extra step. If he was being felt by the institution of the KCCA, which has now been divided between what is political and powerless and what is non-political and powerful, I think probably he would have gone to court and found injunctions to this. He would have done more than speaking. Then maybe you would exonerate him as a political leader and somebody that really knows the law and what should be done.
There is a typical precedent that lawyers have been flying all over. The Rylands versus Fletcher. How does it apply in this case? Does it make HAM liable in this case? Maybe for the benefit of our viewers, you could explain it.
Yes, Simon. HAM for me and for all of us, even for court, will actually be and is the primary offender in this, all right? Because it is his works that have caused the damage that we are looking at now.
Presumably.
Yes.
Because there is no engineering report.
Okay. What happened in Ryland versus Fletcher, or the principle in Ryland versus Fletcher is if you are a landowner or if you are doing some work from a particular land A, and what you are doing is actually a non-natural use of that land, all right? Or whatever you are doing with that land causes or affects the usage or the occupation, the reasonable occupation of another person's land or another person's premises, then you are liable, all right? Something on your land, and then below, or what we would call tort, or common law in this case, would occupy my property or cause damage to me.
Yeah, but given this,
I have seen a lawsuit already. I've heard that the traders under Qatar, under UNATA have sued KCCA, they have sued NEMA, and they have sued HAM. I want to really see how court will deal with this. Of course, I don't want...
What would be the grounds?
The grounds would basically be, number one, that HAM, that because of HAM's actions, that HAM's actions constituted what you would say a private nuisance, all right? Or because of his negligence to provide or to prevent what was reasonably supposed to happen, he caused loss to the traders. So what we are looking at here is the causation, is that damage, was damage caused? Who caused the damage? What you would really call causation in the legalities. then you'd have to look at NEMA and see what they did or what they did not do. And as I have told you before, I think NEMA here is liable for their omissions to supervise or their omissions to deter what harm started to do that was not legal according to their acts. I think KCCA is also liable for their omission to supervise or to deter harm in what he had started to do that was not legal. If they called under the weight of the president's letter, that does not exonerate them in one way or another. If all they did was speak and speak and speak, I'm not sure that they came out to exercise their duty of care to the people or exercise their legal duty to prevent what harm was. At least they should have come out and said, okay, we tried to stop the man, and we were failed maybe by the president or we were failed maybe by police. But it is going to be difficult for them to come out of this liability.
But it's equally complicated for anyone to come out and point at harm's development,
Yes.
as the cause of the floods, of the disaster. It's just guesswork.
I agree with you
It's
on
a
that.
natural cause, perhaps.
I want to agree with you on that. And when you say perhaps, I really want to agree with you there more. The lawyers for the plaintiffs, for the traders, will have a lot of work to do. This is going to be so technical. You'll